everyone. Welcome to Talkin Cinema with Mike. Today I'll be talking with Chris and his daughter Allie about Martin Scorsese's film Taxi Driver. Hey guys, welcome back.
Thank you.
So, what did you find out about going back to Taxi Driver and looking at the cinematography?
The one of the first things that I noticed with the cinematography was it seemed like when it was Travis's world, everything was kind of dark and muted colors and rainy and often very blurry. Yeah, like blurry, or there was some sort of a haze or smoke, or you just couldn't really see things clearly. But then when you got to Betsy's world and the campaign headquarters and the daytime, all of the sudden, like, all of the colors became really vibrant. It was almost never raining, and it was always sort of sunshine, or if it was later in the evening, it was like the sun was setting, but it was all really bright and clear. And so it just really, and even the colors of their clothing, Travis and all of his cabbies and the people he was picking up, everybody just sort of had muted colors, and everything was just a little dingy, a little dirty, a little bit off. And then you go to the campaign and everything is bright and vibrant and like primary.
People are put together and things like that.
And like the hair and the makeup and everything are done just perfectly. So that was just something that I noticed a lot in the comparison between sort of Travis's nighttime world and the daylight world of the Palatine campaign.
What were some of did you see any cool one frame shots in the film as the story went along?
What did you know? Did you notice any particular individual shots?
I always love the one at the end where it's like an above view of everybody that got killed, and then it goes out into the street. I always think that's a really cool shot because you can see everything.
And something that I noticed from that shot, which I had never noticed in the previous couple times that I saw it, that overhead tracking shot after you think everyone is dead, that overhead tracking shot that goes through the multiple rooms, then the sort of the epilogue scene when you go and there's the newspaper clippings up on the wall, and you start to realize oh my goodness, Travis is still alive. But on one of the newspaper clippings, the top portion of the clipping is actually an overhead artist rendition of what the police found in the apartment. And that little graphic in the newspaper story is almost that exact tracking shot that's done overhead in the film, which was so cool, which I had never seen before.
I never noticed that.
One shot for me that always I always remember is toward the very end at the election, and they show Travis with the mohawk and in the army jacket and sunglasses. It's the end of the transformation for this man.
Yes.
And seeing what he's about to do to take action into cleaning the filth off the streets.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. And that was a great line that I made note of the second time, and I know it's not necessarily about the cinematography, but when and I think he says it to the candidate Palatine, where he says, someday a real rain will come and wash all the scum off the streets. And I just love that line.
So do I.
And especially when he's just so angry about all the scum and all the people and all that kind of stuff.
The other shots that I really like are while Travis is working out in his apartment. He's like gearing up. He's practicing with the guns, and he's like they zoom in on him, like looking in the mirror, and when he's like curled up in fetal position in bed, like the whole sequence of watching this man like transform into this hero that the city needs. I don't know, when moments like that happen in the film, it's always you hear like the voiceover of Travis like writing in his journal. Really shows like the psychology this man's this man and like what he's going through and what he sees and what he feels like he needs to do to make sure, like if it's like he wants to have this purpose. He feels like he needs to do something good to maybe, I would say, maybe try to fit into society. Like he wants to fit in, maybe doing this, murderous so what am I looking for? Like going on this murderous odyssey.
Yes.
When it's I thought that was a really interesting contrast too, because as the movie opens and you see him, driving his cab, and you see him, in his normal workday clothes, you don't. I mean, he just kind of looks schlubby, and then as he starts that transformation, and he talks about, no more pills, no more booze, no more whatever. And I need to be like laser focused and whatever. But then all of a sudden you see him without his shirt, and it's just like the sinews and the veins and
Really
like how, how lean and lithe he is. And then, and then you see he's doing the push-ups, and then you see
the scar on his back.
Yeah, the scarring and stuff from, I'm guessing, a Vietnam injury. Yes. That was the other piece that we noticed, that we talked about really briefly before, but especially at the beginning of the movie, and then also I think a little bit at the end of the movie, a lot of the lighting that's coming through, the predominant colors at the beginning for about the first 3 or 4 minutes of the movie are red, white, and blue. And then they're doing like kind of an extreme close-up of his face, and even the lights that are coming through, supposedly the windshield of his cab, and his face is all lit up red, and then there'll be a splash of white, and then the whole hue goes to like a blue color. And so I just thought that, and of course, really cool. So you've got the red, white, and blue of America. That's also the red, white, and blue of like, the police cars and the police lights and stuff. And that sort of is an interesting combo of him, wanting to clean up this awful New York City. And what should the police be doing, and how should they be fighting the crime? But I just thought it was really interesting to see how predominant. We paused it a couple times and we looked and we're like, what are the main colors? It's red, white, and blue. So that was pretty cool to see.
And I think the most iconic shot in Taxi Driver towards the end after the shootout, after saves Jodie Foster, and he like puts his hand to and does like the gun thing, and it's all covered in blood.
Yeah.
What did you think that symbolized? Like what Travis was doing? Like I've tried to like analyze that a few times when watching Taxi Driver. It's like, does he want to like kill himself after saving Jodie Foster? What did you guys think?
Well, I think, I mean, what I got from that is he grabbed, it was either the last gun that he had or another gun that he grabbed after the shootout. And after he shot the last guy on the floor, he put the gun up under his chin and pulled the trigger twice. And it clicked. It just clicked. So it was out.
Right.
And then he sort of like dropped the gun and kind of resigned himself. It was almost like as he laid back on the couch, it was almost like he either resigned himself to living or was almost like hoping or praying that he would die.
somehow.
And I think then when the cop comes through the door with the gun, it almost to me seemed like a silent plea to the cop. Like,
you had to be like, hey, just shoot me.
Like kind of like, please shoot me.
Please shoot me right now.
Like that whole idea of like the suicide by cop phenomenon. You know, like I don't want to do it myself, or I can't bring myself to do it. But if I act
for me,
but if I act crazy in front of a cop, you'll maybe shoot me, and then you'll do what I didn't. You'll do what I couldn't do. And it almost felt like at the end that thing, because he's sort of reacting to the cop coming through the door with the gun on, you know, is there anybody left alive in here? And almost when he puts that to his head, I mean, it's almost like I saw that as almost as a plea.
That's what I thought.
To the cop to
just like shoot him
and end it for me, which of course the cop
didn't.
doesn't do,
as we find out later.
And we just kind of assume that Travis has died.
We thought he died.
But then there he is.
Yep. Back in the taxi cab.
Yep.
Driving to the city.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, was that all in Travis's head, or did it really happen?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that one out.
I have a feeling that was all in Travis's head. I still think it is, because think about it. I think it really happened. I think because of his psychology with the insomnia and the PTSD that really in his head, the whole thing. That's why at the end he's back as a cab driver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because I think if that really did happen, I think Travis would be in jail, locked up. I mean, like, he killed like 3-4 guys in that apartment while trying to save Jodie Foster.
Yeah, it's an interesting question, especially given the time that you know, in sort of the 70s in New York City. I mean, there was enough violence and police corruption and, you know, police wanting to control a narrative or change a narrative that one of the things we were talking about is maybe the simplest thing in the world was just to paint him as this,
hero.
Ex-military hero that went in and ironically did a little portion of the cleanup of the streets that he had
always wanted to do.
that he always thought somebody should do. And maybe that was the simplest way for them to sweep everything under the rug, have a great story for the citizens of New York. Here's this ex-Marine, you know, work-a-day cab driver who goes and saves a young girl in this horrible life, and meanwhile gets rid of a mobster, a pimp, and a guy working, or one or two guys working for the mobster and the pimp. And gosh, look at that. He's cleaning up the streets. So that could have been it too. That was just kind of a feel-good story that the police could put out, and then not even have to worry about even charging him, because really he was sort of doing the police's job, which again is super ironic, because that's what he's been hoping and begging and
wanting to do all along.
And wishing people would do. Yeah. But I don't know, because he did say,
it's hard to say.
At one point he said he was working, he worked a 12-hour shift and then was exhausted and got home after a 12-hour shift and still couldn't sleep. And so he's going on, I don't know.
He's going on like no sleep at all, basically.
Yeah, like a couple hours a day. And there's no way you can survive.
Sane with that.
Yeah.
Goodwill starts with you every time you shop and donate. Your support opens doors for new opportunities, and supplies possibilities for those people with barriers to employment. When you shop at Goodwill, you'll find home decor, clothing that fits your unique style, and other one of a kind treasures. It also keeps items out of the landfill, all while supporting job training, financial coaching, and more. When you shop at and donate to Goodwill, you open doors for possibilities for neighbors in your community. Goodwill starts with you. I was just thinking another shot of the film that I really like seeing is when Travis goes to the the voting place, and Sybil Shepherd is there, and she's shocked to see him after their first date. And
Yeah.
you see how like the camera like turns away from her and just focuses on Travis when he walks
Yeah.
through the front door. It's like you question yourself, what is like what's the expression on Sybil Shepherd's face when this is going on? Like she must be like really shocked, maybe feels guilty because all you see is Travis there, and like the other guys like trying to like get him out of the place, and he tries
Yeah.
to like
Yeah.
fight them off.
Yeah.
So it's like you. That's what you ask yourself. What is this woman like? What does the look on this woman's face look like when Travis comes to the door? Is it like does she feel guilty? Like does she feel like what she did had to be done? What did you guys think?
Yeah, or does she feel is she like is she embarrassed? Is she horrified? Is she like, oh my gosh, what have what have I gotten myself into with this guy? And yeah, I mean, I don't really know because yeah, like to your point, we don't really
Yeah,
see
we don't
her,
really see her reaction.
but it's weird the way she. I mean, he comes when he meets her. It's a very odd interaction. I mean, he comes
Yes.
off very strong and very strange, but she kind of goes for it.
She goes with it for some reason.
But then, of course, then he takes her to the
movie
porno
and
for their date, and then things kind of go sideways.
Why would you do that?
And yeah, and then
Exactly.
and then I think she realizes I don't know that I don't know what I
getting
got myself into. Another weird thing that I noticed about when he shows up for the first time and comes in to the Palatine headquarters to talk to her, all of the colors of the people in the headquarters and like the walls and the carpet and the campaign colors, they're all really bright primary red, super bright,
bright red.
absolute primary capital R red. And Travis comes in and he's wearing a red
jacket,
a red sport coat jacket.
Yep.
But it's like a darker color of red.
But it's just enough off that it completely stands out from the whole rest of the scene, which is all the same bright primary red. And he comes in almost like a dark blood red jacket. And it's kind of like, I mean, that to me is like he almost got it right, but
not really.
But his idea of what I should be doing or wearing or trying to fit in was just off enough. It was just not quite right.
That it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Like Travis was trying to fit in, and when you approach a beautiful girl, you want to look like sharp, you want to be well dressed.
Yeah. And really to try and fit into her world, and because that's a very different world than like than he talks about, like the pimps and the druggies and right and the drug and the dealers and the users and the everything. It's her whole world is just the opposite of that.
I also think the final like shot of the film after like Travis sees Betsy again and he's just driving off and he turns around, he notices something in the mirror. It just like triggers something back into his mind, like the real I guess, the psycho part of him, the part that feels like everything needs to be washed up. It's just like you can tell, like, from that shot that, being a Vietnam War veteran with PTSD and insomnia, like the slightest little things can like tick him off.
Mm-hmm.
Like Travis is like a short fuse, like to a bomb that's about to blow up.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, and it was almost like it came so close to blowing up, and then it was kind of like tamped down or patted down, or it was calmed down a little bit. But now are we seeing sort of the rebuild of that explosive power? But it's a great film. And the other thing that I noticed, like, just, and it's more of the set design than necessarily the cinematography, but there are so many windows and mirrors in this particular movie. It's like everything that we're seeing as he's driving around is out the window, out the back window, out his side windows in his apartment.
There's so many windows.
Windows and dirty mirrors, and mirrors with like thumb, fingerprints all over them, and smears and stuff. And the headquarters is all windows, like all the way around it. And so like everything that we're seeing is either through a window, out a window, in a mirror. And I just that's an interesting, like, I haven't necessarily seen a film where almost every shot is, a lot of the key
Like
shots are reflections, or you're seeing something through glass, where it's either out or in of a window. And that's just I just thought that was an interesting technique that kind of really goes through almost the whole movie of windows and mirrors, which I thought was kind of cool.
What do you guys think Taxi Driver tells us about society and how we can make it better?
Ooh, that's a good really question. What do you think?
Or
do you need a minute? Okay. I think I don't know if it's necessarily a message of the film. It definitely showed me, or kind of spoke to me, that all of us, when we go and live our lives, however we live them, wherever we are, that we're really only seeing, maybe a third of what's of the rest of the day that's out there, or only a little portion of the people that surround us. And if you look at Betsy, I mean, Betsy's entire world is these bright, young, smart, happy, shiny, primary color wearing, political people. And I don't think she really interacts with anyone in Travis's world. And his world is entirely different. And he talks about, wiping the blood out of the back of his cab and all the different characters. Well, and so that's his world. I mean, if he were able to sleep, he probably wouldn't see much of Betsy's world. And so I guess, I mean, if anything, it's kind of like we only sort of see what we're exposed to, and we just assume that that's kind of everything. And there's so much more to our lives and the people around us and the city around us and the world around us than we even realize. And so maybe it's just opening up, or realizing that, or acknowledging that, and especially seeing some of the people like the Travis Bickles of the world, who otherwise, are kind of off in the shadows. Maybe. What do you think? What do you get from?
Probably for me anyway, it's probably mostly like the stigma of like his mental illness, and how like he's not, because nobody really knew what it was back in the 70s. I think, I'm not sure, but nobody really knew what it was, and like his PTSD was really bad. And so because of that, he had to stay up later. And so, when you see somebody like that, you're not really sure what they're going through on a daily basis. Like, not everybody goes through the same thing. So, just be nice to everybody you meet, generally, because you don't know what's going on in their lives.
Yeah, you wouldn't know PTSD and insomnia, and that it's a result of service in the Marines and Vietnam and all that kind of stuff. But yet that affects him so deeply, and is maybe a cause for behaviors or for unclear thoughts or whatever, that it all traces back to that. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, like right now there's hundreds of different ways to treat PTSD. Now doctors are paying more attention to it. There's meds now for PTSD that people can take, and not just people like who serve in the military. People can get PTSD from all sorts of things. Child abuse, maybe like from a car accident, or maybe even PTSD from being attacked by maybe like a mugger or like a wild animal.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, maybe like you're on a safari in Africa and you think it's gonna be like the Lion King. You're just chilling, and then all of a sudden a lion comes out and tries to attack you.
And then you end up not being able to sleep
because of the lion.
Driving a cab at night.
Exactly, because PTSD can cause you not to sleep because you're up all the time, just like worrying about that time that you almost thought your life was going to get taken away.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
Definitely.
The Ukraine has been under severe devastation for quite some time. People are losing their homes and going hungry, and we need to help put a stop to it. Log on to donate.amnestyusa.org and donate now in order to help those people get through this difficult time. Thank you. So, guys, it was nice to have you back on the podcast. Thank you for coming back and continuing our conversation about Taxi Driver.
Thank you so much. This was awesome to talk about. And thank you for such a great suggestion.
Yes, thank you so much.
Of Taxi Driver.
It's one of the best.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah,